see here. Yeah, thank you for coming.
I'm just trying to figure out the time.
When I don't, it may not sit up on its own.
About 2 minutes, folks.
That way, I think.
What do you think?
Yeah.
As long as they're consistent there.
Do I need
Unless
to
they're
put
not.
one? Do we want to put one up here? Or do we?
She said they're gonna stand down here. They're not gonna sit up here. They're gonna stand down here. So maybe we do sit one here and one here, and then we can move the cameras. And what do you think? I'll move it right here, sir. Will it be out of the way if I move right here? Okay. Here, move it. And I'll get this. Okay. Oh, good point. Okay. I'm wondering if I brought a notepad. Do you have one or this one? So that we can, if we need to manually write down notes, we can. Let's see. Okay. I've already got my. It's up to you. So. Yeah. And then I can watch the library.
You might be using these to leave us your ideas, your comments, your frustration, your just write your ideas, frustrations, you've heard it a little bit, what are some lefties in the back? Thanks, sir. Thanks for being with us. You go back.
Pop up on that.
Yes.
I guess maybe I could turn the.
Right,
Do you want to watch?
Sharon, want to talk front with us? Cover that works.
Okay.
I've got the.
Okay, about 5 minutes, just want to get these out and about. Okay, good, there you go. Everybody got some stickies to maybe write ideas, thoughts? All right. I was gonna say, yeah, you're good to go, just make sure you're unmuted. You're good. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Please come in, join us. We're practicing social distancing, maybe 4 to 6 seats between folks. Got more supplies up here. We need to pass this around later. I'm Veronica Creech. I lead the Office of Economic Development and Innovation here in the city of Raleigh. Many of you in the room I have met before. I have enjoyed a meal with you, maybe a drink after work and some social time. Others, this will be the first time and you're scratching your head like, who is she and why are we just now seeing her? That's okay, that's okay. I've been here coming up on 2 years with the city of Raleigh, leading the Office of Economic Development and Innovation. And upon my arrival, I was greeted with such warmth and such community. What I realized and I met very early on are business alliances. And in fact, across the city of Raleigh, you in the room probably are more familiar with DRA, Downtown Raleigh Alliance. We have Jeff here with Hillsborough Street Alliance. We've got somebody with Blue Ridge Alliances here. We have Newbern Avenue, Corridor Alliance. There's Person Street and Glenwood and Midtown. It's amazing the way folks identify with community in their immediate geography. So we thought it, thank goodness, a year and a half ago, to start convening these alliances to understand more of business and small business needs across those geographies. There are also people in our city who run businesses that don't see themselves aligned to an alliance. Heads down, working hard, not really thinking about the political environment or the way it affects them until times like now. And you raise up and say, holy crap, what's my community doing? So we've asked some folks in that area who self-describe as not being within alliance to join us today as well. So thanks for the folks that helped with that outreach. So we also have folks join via live stream. So I want to thank Jennifer and her team with Shop Local Raleigh for raising their hand and say, hey, we'll live stream. We got our good friends behind that glass right there helping us live stream with the city of Raleigh. So we have two ways to connect with today's conversation. And to be clear, put my bureaucrat hat on for a second, the purpose of today's convening is to listen. We are referring to this gathering as the Office of Economic Development and Innovation's listening session. We envision this being one of multiple efforts to convene people, ideas, and more than anything, solutions. Some background about who we are. This is our team. We are small, but we are mighty. You will get to meet two of the folks later in the presentation today. We have a full-time communications person, Amanda. She's with us, and she's in another room setting up for spillover in case we needed that space. So there's 6 of us. We are from varied backgrounds, very disciplines, but we all find a passion and compassion in the work that economic development allows us to lead here in our community. And then I'm also a small business owner. And folks sometimes like, oh, now you're talking my language. So I've been investing for the last 16 years in Wilson, North Carolina, for those of you who don't know, 45 minutes east. I own 2 street-level storefronts, and I own a 3rd retail space upstairs, all in the charming historic district. I also own residential properties in historic Wilson, North Carolina. So the moment my folks get laid off or can't pay their rent, hello, I have to make decisions as an owner also. So we are absolutely in this together. This is not textbook for us. This is real. We're in it for real with you. We are a data-driven organization and a data-driven office. And I read some research recently that stated when a presentation has references to puppies and babies, audience members retain more information and stay more engaged. Let's test that out. Humor is always welcomed. And any good meeting which has a purpose, stated earlier, to listen, also has ground rules. Let's please join me in letting respect and unity reign as we acknowledge the unknown. Take your time. Just be nice. That's really what it is. Let's be respectful. Let's be heard. Now let's listen to each other. The format for today's meeting will be to hear from you. We're going to be asking you to share questions, concerns, ideas, and inspirations about what you believe would be helpful here in the city of Raleigh. Next, we'll invite you to write questions, ideas, or inspiration on the sticky notes that we just passed out. Not everyone wants to get up and talk publicly. Some folks may take things in. We communicate differently, so we're trying to accommodate various styles and meet you where you are. So, all of the above. Hand raising, use your outside voice while we're inside. We also have a microphone set up here. And then we're going to close today's session with a link to the COVID-19 resource page that our incredible team has been putting together since mid-last week, and decided we're going to launch that today. We did some communication out Friday with those resources and realized we don't have everybody. So again, it's times like this that we try to be found and we try to find you for sharing information. So with that, that's about as formal as it's going to get. I would like to move to, we got some note takers, we got some members from our team. writing down questions. The answer to questions today may be, I don't know. It may be, we've heard that, and some team members are working on it. And it may be, oh crap, what a great question. Sorry we didn't think of it already. And then those are some real responses. We'll start with that. I'd also like to hear along the way, if you've read about other cities who are doing blank, and you're thinking, well, why can't my city do that? I don't know, let's find out. Can our city do it? Let's ask the questions. I'm gonna stop there and just ask for hand raising, some standing up. If you would share your name and your affiliation, just so folks can begin with continue growing community, even in this probably less than desirable time. So you hand in the back, yes sir.
Katsuyi Tanabe from High Horse. I have two more restaurants, one in Vegas, one in Chicago. Vegas is dead. Chicago, we went through all delivery. We closed most of the outlets. The biggest concern that we're having in Chicago is, okay, we're bringing cooks to go food, to deliver food. We're not in the food industry as my restaurant. We are in the entertainment business. People don't come to my restaurant to get fed. They come to get an experience. So my food's never been designed for delivery, for pick-up, so people can take it. That's the biggest fighting we're trying to understand. Like, we're in the entertainment. You know, we're not designed to feed people. People come to our restaurants for a social experience. So that's the number one thing that we're trying to balance. What are we doing? Then the number two thing is, if I bring my cooks, myself, and some staff to start preparing food, how do I know they're not sick or they're carrying the virus? Then I become a restaurant who's exporting or home delivering the virus. So that's the other thing. Like, what do? Do we kind of close and then just do delivery, but then we have the risk of getting our employees sick or people that we deliver food sick, or do we close completely? And the reason I have been talking to other chefs, especially today in Kentucky, they shut down as well all the restaurants. And my friend, she runs his restaurant, and I said, I think the other solution that we need to look is, if you don't own your land or the building, it's about talking to landlords and say, you know what, this month we're not gonna pay rent. And it's quite simple, because if you're paying rent and you're still paying rent, even if they kick you out, it's not like another restaurant that's gonna come in and take your spot, because we all shut down. So for me right now, what I'm trying to make sense is talk to landlords and say, we're not paying rent, and then talk to the city. No payroll tax for next month, no taxes, no, whatever we can save the money so that we can keep our business. Once this is over, the first thing that's gonna happen, everybody's gonna go wild and crazy and wanna go drunk and have fun and go to our restaurants. But we need to stay for the next 2 weeks in a hiatus business-wise. So those are my thoughts. Reaching to landlords, reach to the city, reach to the governor. I don't know if your insurance actually covers pandemics. At my restaurant in LA, my insurance will cover riots and acts of God. That's one of the things. So the moment the governor declares a state of emergency, we can pretty much play around with our insurance and go through loopholes. I went through my insurance yesterday, and it's extremely complicated of what it covers and what it doesn't. So we just have to get creative on how to go around this. And my other thing is, I think the governor is having a meeting right now, right? It's do we know where are we sitting? Is he? I'm gonna keep my restaurant open until the city tells me to shut down, because I have no reason there.
No, we've not made that declaration. In fact, we won't make that declaration. The city won't. The city is working in tandem with the county. In North Carolina, it's your county health department that manages health crises, flu and health department stuff. It's not a city service. It's a function of the county. So we are completely in support of our county leadership as it relates to health. They are working with the governor's office. The counties are working with the governor's office to listen for and inform what that decision, if any, will be, as we've seen in Ohio and Indiana and other places. As of this meeting, we have not learned of any shutdowns, but we will not make that decision. Rather, we're going to work with the county and the governor's office on that decision. And that's where we are at this minute. These things are changing very quickly. What our colleague over here said was a lot of things, from rent to landlords, to tenant needs, to deferring, others. What is that? Others chiming in. What Nia is writing down is the suggestions. I heard local sales tax waiving, like what things that the city can do, we should look at least. We're tracking those items. We're going to follow back up with you on, okay, from this meeting, here's where we went with these suggestions, and here's what the possible outcomes could be. This report from this meeting immediately will go back to the city manager and mayor today, so that's already in process. I see a hand here.
Sure.
Name and your affiliation.
Sean Degnan with Soka Restaurant in Cameron Village, Colin Restaurant in Cary, place at table downtown. On top of what Katsui just said, the demand for special occasion business is going to zero as at the same time that we're probably going to be told to close anyway and just do to go. Certainly to go doesn't pay the bills the way that people celebrating does. But it seems like, and if we're thinking about next week and not today, that there are going to be a whole new group of abundances and scarcities that didn't exist before now, some of which is not everyone can buy and hold and store and prepare enough food to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Especially the people who have moved downtown into these small little apartments, they go out to eat, almost every night. And so you're gonna take their food source away. But at the same time, a whole bunch of people who are mostly young and healthy and are more afraid of not getting a paycheck for 2 weeks or a month than they are of dying of a virus, would much rather wake up and go to work if they're healthy and if they don't have a temperature and help us get through this. And so aligning those things as soon as possible seems like the best case scenario. So I got some really smart people who work for me that are out in Cary putting together meal kits and things that they were just going to do on their own. But it sounds like sooner than later, that's going to be what we're serving. And maybe instead of trying to make money on it, if it's actually a need that everybody needs and we all could do that, then maybe people going to work and providing meals for people who need it. And there are other groups like, say, what are you saying? Interfaith Food Shuttle. A lot of those people, they're counting on like kids that volunteer at schools, like that's their workforce. Older people who volunteer who are retired, that's their workforce. Like that workforce is going away. So if one restaurant could put together 100 casserole type things and it could be delivered through Interfaith Food Shuttle or something else, and every restaurant could do that, we would probably rather hear that sooner than later so that we could be telling our employees there's a plan. We're all going to be in this together, and what we do is make great food. We're going to continue to do that. Someone else is going to coordinate who picks it up and where it goes.
What I'm hearing, I want to make sure I just circle back, the insurance question. Whenever folks figure out the insurance, whose insurance, how, where, do you have the right language? Is anyone making great headway with their insurance? Let us know. On our team, just put faces with a name, we have Beth Frederick, who is, in the back in the green, right behind me, the tall lady. Beth came to us from the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Today, she is working through the North Carolina employment, the insurance companies to figure out unemployment for short term. What I share with my team, and most of us can remember it, we had a lot of family members that worked in factories here in North Carolina, and factories often close 2 weeks in the summer over the 4th of July. And it was set up in a way that you could apply for unemployment insurance through those 2 weeks, and you pick back up, you did not miss a week of household income. Does this qualify for something like that? We don't know, but we're asking those questions. So as it relates to your point, Sean, around people getting a paycheck is really today. This is right now, because that paycheck will pay for rent this month. And it takes a while to be so sick from the virus. If you're already thinking about that, it's what do we do here? I'm hearing you on that. I'm also hearing long-term with business insurance, but just know we got our folks today talking with, trying to understand unemployment. Yeah.
I've been told that unless the governor mandates it, that insurance won't cover this. That unemployment is the insurance that, if it is extended, would cover this situation. And so there are other restaurant groups that have already laid off their entire staff to let their staff get first in line. If that's what we're supposed to do, it'd be nice to hear that really quickly, so that our staff, so we're not trying to do the right thing by staying open and contribute towards a food shortage, and then our employees are now last in line to get these benefits.
I know the city cannot, we're just not even the right brain trust to answer that question, but that's why this group will be the brain trust. We have to turn to each other to experientially figure out who's laid off, how did you get to the system, did you get unemployment, did this qualify, did somebody get kicked out of the system, do you do a 4-figure staff at a time, do you slowly, phase down? We, again, can't give you that prescription, we can be thought partners with you, and we can also ask other communities. We are, repeat, the chamber is going to be convening a group of economic development directors from around the county. For Wake County, I suspect there's somebody working on one for the state as well. We do need to compare notes to other places. If other folks seem to be like figuring this out, what are we missing? Let's get in that loop. So just know we're here and we want to figure this out with you. And those are the kind of questions you got to ask us. So we'll be like, oh, that's the path we need to take, not this over here and waste 10 days. We don't have that time. We need to get right to the heart of the answers. Thank you. And we had a wonderful experience at your place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Others.
From social media, some of the comments right now coming in are network among businesses that have infrastructure. Can we help monitor that supervised channel for distribution of food and supplies? And then again, reiterating the immediate access for need of unemployment for funds for all employees, bars, restaurants, retail. How can we speed that up and help push that through?
Thank you. Mayor Jennifer, Charlotte O'Reilly. This is our live stream right now. Thank you. So she'll be reading those questions as they come in. I see another hand in the back. No, sorry. Others? Hi.
Crash Greg, Triangle Downtowner Magazine. I've been trying to do some reading lately. A lot of our advertisers are bars and restaurants and retail, so we're trying to help them out. A lot of the government, state, local, county are helping out with payroll up to 40% for a certain number of employees, or something that city, county can look at. People are giving discounts for takeout. So incentivizing people to come do takeout, and they're doing maybe a live stream in the kitchen with the chef or with some other people. So like as you said, you're still getting a little bit of the experience even though you're home. So you're still involved with there. You're not just sitting at home with your spouse or friend or whoever, and you're involved with the restaurant. So maybe they're having a live stream during the dinner hours or lunch hours. Something else people are doing is discounts on gift cards. So if and when all this is gone, people will go ahead and buy stuff now, so you have money coming in now that gets used later. And then the other stuff is online shopping for people that have it. And some of the counties and city people up in New York are helping people put stuff online that don't have it online yet with quick online shopping options.
Those are the types of idea sharing. The city didn't come up with that. We're never going to be that creative. We will, like in groups like this, but that's just not where our brain is. It's not our DNA. So we need to learn what are folks doing, how are folks hacking this right now, how are we moving on, and these are all great ideas to try to figure it out. Now I will say that we have our parking manager, Matt Courier, with us, and of course parking in like Hillsborough Street and DRA are like everyday and immediate. And Matt, if I say the wrong language, please correct me. Matt and his team are looking at curbside pickup, but it's a real specific language.
Essentially, temporary curbside pickup zones.
There you go. Curbside pickup zones that they are overlaying in downtown to make it easier to pull over, to pick up, for delivery folks to come as well. Matt and his team are also looking at possible, no commitment, but the commitment is to look at and to hopefully come forward with a solution of waiving employee parking in certain locations in downtown. You could only imagine, like, it's not about the fees, it's about the logistics of that. So let Matt and his team have some time to continue figuring out how can we get free parking and waived parking for our downtown employees. That's absolutely active and underway.
I think just alleviating parking totally, just incentivize people to come downtown for pickup or to come down to maybe shop if they're not that afraid. They go in someplace and shop, but just like on the weekends when it's off, just turn it off.
Yeah, okay.
Veronica, can you address the webpage that's being set up by the City of Raleigh to have all the resources and information available?
Sure, we can actually look at that link real quick. I was gonna close on it, but folks might wanna write it down. As of like the middle of last week, our office started working with county, state, and national partners to make sure we are tracking the most current resources specifically for business, small business, mid-size, continuity of operations planning. On this site, you'll see some best practices for continuity of operations. You'll see, something that may have been posted Friday to make sure it's still relevant today. We sent out, again, a communications Friday with all those resources, but realizing not everyone's in our communications network. So now would be a great time for you to opt in. If you get something from us, start subscribing. This is the website. Is Amanda in the room? Yeah, Amanda's our communications manager. She keeps us up to date. If you see a resource, like Crash was just sharing, if you see a resource and you want your friends and family to know about it, send it to Amanda and we'll post it as well. We'll keep it in a resource, kind of a toolkit ongoing. If you click a link, there's a bunch of bull crap behind it, let us know, we'll take it down. But we're trying to sort through and vet through everything we post before we put it up there. People can sometimes be a little unscrupulous, but it gets by with stuff. Yes, sir.
Adam Eckhart, Craner Room coming in. With the parking thing, we're very seriously probably going to start if we're forced to close and when you take out only curbside for kegs and beer. How quickly is that going to be implemented? If it isn't implemented quickly, will we be able to appeal it quickly? Also, we have a Wake County food and beverage tax of 1%. If we're doing to go only and not having people rolling in the doors, is there any talk of deferment or waive on that?
That's something to ask about. Matt, do you want to address that? I mean, well, this microphone is live if you want that.
Yeah, I can try my best to speak loud. So again, Matt Curtin, the parking manager for the city. A lot of familiar faces over our conversation study a year ago. Working really close with Bill King and Jeff Murison on placement of these zones throughout our city. We're looking at a lot of them to support a lot of your businesses. Everybody I see in here that looks familiar, I think you're probably going to see one very, very close, if not directly in front of your business. So again, trying to make that access not a barrier to folks getting in there, getting those products, and then getting out so you're more customers can roll through. But again, that's all barring state decisions on if those businesses are allowed to stay open or not. But we're working, we've fully mapped it out, and now we're talking logistics on how to get it on the ground.
Right, thank you. Crash just shared that somebody asked, isn't the governor having an announcement right now while we're here? 23 minutes ago, we live in such real time, the governor did roll out, I'm not read the whole thing, just read the opening paragraph, resources for small businesses here in North Carolina. I don't know what it's going to look like, but through SBA. That could mean low interest loan, it could mean no interest loan. Some communities have moved in that direction. We're talking about that here. Sometimes I don't like to say too much because if we can't live into it, then it's like, well, why just say it anyway? But the big commitment is we're being very creative, turning things upside down, shaping them differently now to see what can the city do versus what can we do to lean on others to do what we need them to do. Somebody else?
Several comments have come in asking if the city can work with landlords to try and help avoid assistance or to tack on several months at the end of the lease.
That's definitely on our list. And if you know any place that's doing that well, or has got guidance around here's how we're doing it. I know Sacramento, again, is not right here, but Sacramento, they're asking a couple of communities, no evictions during this time, business or residential. I don't know that we could go, I don't know if North Carolina's even legal. There's so many things in economic development that our colleagues in other states can do that we can't do here. Jeff, you want to chime in?
I think the county announced today that they're gonna delay foreclosures and evictions
Okay.
proceedings.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw that
It's
before.
hard to push that stuff through. So that is absolutely on our list. How do we lean into that? We can't necessarily make that happen, but what do we do with the Realtors Association, the landlord, tenant, fair housing laws? Like, where can we push in on no evictions or delaying rents for a later time? Yes, sir.
Jeff Murison, President and CEO of the Hillsborough Street Community Service Corporation and the Blue Ridge Corridor Alliance, and a co-owner of a small business. A couple of our merchants asked about city utilities, if they could be delayed, payments till a date in the future, and that seemed like another opportunity.
Absolutely ask that. That would be, figure that one out. Nia's got us covered on, right? Yes, ma'am.
Maggie Kane, a Police at the Table. I just have to mention, I know that we all are trying to take care of our staff and our companies and our businesses, and it's going to be a rough couple months. But I am definitely advocating for the nonprofit side as well. For all who do not know, Place at the Table is a pay what you can nonprofit restaurant in downtown. And we are working really hard to work with nonprofits in this area to work on the food system, and we're just gonna have a lot more hungry people. And so if your staff ever need any food, if you wanna be a part of that, if you ever have extra resources and wanna be a part in helping supply food, just feel free to reach out to me. We're gonna be hopefully helping take care of a lot of these hungry folks that end up in our community. So feel free to reach out to me as well.
10 years ago in Mexico, we had the H1N1 virus. And the way we deal with it, it's the same thing that I'm doing right now at High Horse at my restaurant. Literally, it's a little invasive. All my employees, the moment they walk in through the door, we make them hand wash, sanitizer, and then we take their temperature. We have a forehead temperature, and we keep a log. I'm not a doctor, but everything that seems out of normal, above 99 degrees, we ask them, please go home. And that's what we did in Mexico. All our employees in Mexico, they were wearing masks in the kitchen. And from the kitchen side, back of the house, front of the house, we can make sure our staff is healthy. The biggest concern is, how do I know that person that just walked in through the door is not carrying the virus? So what I did in the last couple of weeks, it's every single person that will walk into a restaurant, even before we talk to them, please put sanitizer. That's the only thing we could do. So, like I said, if we have to close, fuck it, we close. But if we don't have to close, then just think about doing that. Have a log of the temperature of your employees, and literally let's push all our guests to be like, hey, don't be an asshole, put some fucking sanitizer,
By the way, you got a lot of likes just now.
I can't repeat that word for word, but I think you guys got that right. Okay, good. Yes, sir.
Paul from Garland and Kings. I think the problem is that there's going to be a lot of people walking around that aren't showing symptoms. So we are learning from Italy that if they had been more stringent on self-quarantine earlier, they wouldn't be in this horrible situation that they're in. Telling a huge, country like America to please everybody, do your best to not interact with each other, it's clearly difficult, but waiting on someone else to tell us to keep your staff away and your guests away for at least 7 to 10 days, so at that point symptoms can start to show if people are carrying it, because that's the thing. It's this delay that's going to make, if we're not careful, we can find normalcy maybe in 6 to 8 weeks versus finding normalcy in 3 to 4 months, which is the terrifying part.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
I've seen the graphs. The arc is like a lot of people, a lot of exposure, a lot of death. Or a lot of people, very little exposure, spread yourselves out, and you keep the curve lower. And it's to your very point, it's spreading out the time that everything from weather, there's so many facts and so many maybe based on what we used to know from N1 and the previous viruses also. But I have seen that research that shows if we can you know, I'm hearing this is painful, right? It's painful to say, okay, guys, I was talking to an owner this morning. Hey, we want to help be a part of the solution. We know people do not need to be gathering, and Jeff just showed me an update from North Carolina, the governor's office, no gatherings of 50 or more. We're just under that. We're good right now. We're not breaking the law right now. But, you know, do the restaurants self-impose this and say, you know, we're taking this one to minimize unintentional groups, which is getting 25, 35, 40 people at a restaurant, gathering, particularly with many closed, you're trying to funnel where people can meet. Do we wait for the governor's office to call it? That's an option. Do folks like self-quarantine, self-impose closure? And you have staff and people's lives to think about, and those lives affect children. It is not an easy place, and it's a painful place. And this is probably the most I've ever seen in economic development. We did, some of us were at Pine State Coffee last night talking through, you know, there's been times in our state's history there were unintentional consequences that affected the small businesses. No one even thought about that being the outcome. And somehow, through perseverance, like we figured that out. Sometimes it kind of makes you stronger, and sometimes folks don't make it, and that's the part that sucks. And I guess I can't say that recorded.
Too late.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I'm John Pugh with House of Swain, in beautiful downtown Raleigh.
Absolutely.
Look around, see a bunch of my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, a bunch of friends. If we're not talking about, seriously talking about rent abatement, because let's be honest, we're talking about a handful of folks that own most of the property downtown. So if the city needs to get on that, if that's gonna happen, because otherwise that's just a sword that's hanging over everybody's neck right now. If there's any talk with the city or working with big corporate folks about accelerated purchases for, if they're gonna buy their Christmas baskets, buy them now. Put their deposits in now. Summer stuff, we do custom, I mean, everybody's in the same boat. We're all sinking. But if there's any way to get the city involved, larger corporate folks involved, and get them to make those purchases now, that's a lifeboat, right? We're all hanging in there, but it's by a thread. And there's a reason. There's a reason that, you know, we have more independent businesses in downtown Raleigh than damn near any place in the country. Because we're smart as hell, we're creative, and we're gonna get through this. But without the city's help, working with a handful of individuals, it's gone. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for everything.
Just to reiterate or to support that statement, again, last night the summer that we were talking about the current conditions, somebody described Raleigh small businesses as the cultural soul of Raleigh. And I just thought that was incredible. Our office markets Raleigh. We have something to market because of you. Right? There's buildings everywhere. There's highways everywhere. But there's not the cultural soul that we have in Raleigh. I say that to say to you, we may be bureaucratic and stodgy and at the city, but we do get it. Like, what we use to attract people to this community is what you've built. We don't want to lose that for all the reasons, including continuing to keep growing as a wonderful destination city and a wonderful place to live, work, play, and learn. Like, that's why we're here. We all have other options too. So we will have we're having that conversation in-house. I may not know that list as well as you and others, so we'll ask if we could have a convening of the primary, landlords in downtown. We'll at least ask. We're not shy to do that. And then we are still looking at some small business zero interest loan program options and other ways to have access to capital that would waive the requirement that capital could cover salaries and operations where a lot of SBA tends not to. But real quick, Jennifer, she had a question, but you still have a follow-up. Are you good?
I mean, the SBA loans are great, but that's basically that's putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, frankly.
Yeah.
If you're just getting loans to get $100,000 more in debt and still close down in 3 months, that's not a great way to work.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, you had a question?
Is there a plan to be statewide 2-week shutdown? But if so, do we already have a business plan in place to help businesses know the best path to move forward and how to immediately help put structure to the management of this on Main Street?
There was a lot in there. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know of a collective plan per se, and we are waiting for the governor's office to decide or let us know what's gonna happen with certain businesses and certain gathering places. There are some resiliency plans at that link, but I don't think, because each of you are so unique, there's not gonna be a single plan that's gonna make sense, but there are tools and resources that either we're gonna have or we're not. And I'm hearing like a dire immediacy, delayed rent is one thing that I've heard in all my listening stops.
Richie Reno, with the Ruby Deluxe Night Rider in the Poorhouse. Those SBA loans are great if you haven't already stretched out your borrowing limit to just operate in an more expensive city. A lot of these places have been operating on the razor's edge. And these are the spots that they service the marginalized community. Once they're gone, they're not coming back. These SBA loans aren't an option for these folks. The other concern I have is for our tipped employees. To the best of my understanding, to get unemployment, it is based upon your reported tips, which most folks are just reporting their credit card tips, not reporting the whole thing, because they can't afford to. And at best, if they do get unemployment, that's $350 a week after you've waited a substantial period of time to get this. For $350 a week, you're not supporting your family and staying in Raleigh. Again, that's more of that heart and soul you were talking about losing. I'm hoping that there's going to be some more assistance programs for these folks outside of them just posting their Venmos and Cash Apps on social media.
Yeah, Bill King, downtown Raleigh Alliance. I'll echo that. A lot of business owners have indicated adding debt on top of this moment is going to be really challenging. So certainly SBA loans are great, but I think one role the city could play is working with partners at those higher levels, including the federal level, to advocate for some sort of relief package that isn't necessarily loans, because I do think it's going to be challenging to put on debt when this is just a huge gap in revenue, right? That is impossible to fill back up. So I think there would be an opportunity there. We also have gotten some questions around utility payments and the ability to potentially defer those. I know that there's a lot of talk, and some have chosen not to shut people off. But if there is any way to work with utilities, and again, that might be bubbling that up to a state level, that would also be helpful for some of our small businesses.
Thank you. That's one we can ask about. The things that we have control over, we can. That's why parking is here. We can talk about that. Paul, thanks for being with us. Lou from the mayor's office is here as well. We got folks, they're listening. We got staff listening through the live stream right now. So we didn't want, again, to now not break the 50-person rule. But we needed you to feel like this is the community, this is your place, this is your access. You've got a couple of access points for various topics. We need to know. I know you need to know, and we need to figure out and try to answer as much as we can and just get out of the gray. That's what probably is the most churning in our stomach is the gray. Other thoughts, suggestions, resources, fears? 1, 2, 3. Yes, sir?
Hey, Jeff Hastings with Burke Brothers Hardware and Blue Ridge Corridor Lines. I went on the resource link, and I think it would be nice. You hear a lot of negative information on the media and through some of these websites on who's closed. It would be helpful also to know those of us in the room that are going to be able to maintain their business and be open for like us. When somebody breaks a toilet, they can't wait 6 or 8 weeks. We're working out a plan now. We have no drive-through ability, but we're working out a plan to make a drive-through in our store. We're working out a plan to have home delivery, not necessarily person to person. We can leave it on the porch and go. But it would be nice on that resource link if those of us that are willing to buy into it to say, hey, here's what our hours are going forward. Here's how you can reach. Here's my cell phone number. how you can reach me in case of emergency, and yes, we are here to support you. And nobody in this room or listening is going to be gouging people, but at the same time, people need goods and services going forward, and I think we're here to try and help provide that.
We'll have to figure it out. I can't say that we're plug and play, but it's a great idea, and we should be. If we're not, we should be doing that. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one other person? Yes, sir.
John Seelbinder, local Icon Hospitality. Uniquely, my group, we're about 30 days away from recovering from like a severe revenue loss after the fire at the Metropolitan, and that was 3 years ago. It took us 3 years to recover with very little or to no assistance there. But I think why I share that is, again, we're very close to recovering. It's taken a long time to get here, and there was a lot of lessons learned. Even in 2017, there were days that we weren't sure how we were going to be in business the next day. And I think one of the most groundbreaking things would be to maybe help small business owners understand what a financial roadmap looks like and how long it could take to recover. Not everybody is in love with looking at their books and understanding those sorts of things, and to have some kind of resource to lean hard in for that, like some more expert CFOs or those sort of things. And I think that, all the things that come into play, the rent abatement, the notices of default I've seen shown up from my bank, and the utilities and everything else, and the taxes all come into play. And without some kind of strategy behind that, we would have never survived. So now we're all kind of going in this together. So I think being able to have a resource of some kind of financial data coaching or planning would be very helpful, in my opinion.
Thank you. That is something we can do. If you guys know of an expert in the field, a financial playbook, handbook, if it's about us accessing resources, hosting video conferencing, paying one time, kind of like everybody plug in and we host and pay and get that resource, then here's the deal. We got to vet who it is. They make sure folks are comfortable. Is it someone local who really understands our industry? And if so, who is that? Is it someone whose city's 3 times as large as ours? They've recovered 3 times, and now we want to learn, so we're moving in that direction. Like, be thoughtful about who you lift up, and let us know that. If it's a matter of booking a series of workshops of resources and tools, that is absolutely something we can do. What I don't want to do is invest in that and folks say, I don't have the mind for that right now. I don't have the time for that. Like, I'm trying to figure out dinner for the next 3 nights. So we've just invested in a series of maybe workshops or tools or online resources that folks are like, no, now's not the right time. So I appreciate that. I'm going to invite you and others on your stick, write down, who do you want us to talk to? Who do you want us to bring? Who's resourceful? Who's overcome this before in different times? And just give us your information on those boards in the back, and just let us know what you want us to know. Can somebody tell me the time?
2:45.
2:45. So we got about 15 more minutes. I'm not in a rush, and we're happy to continue. But I know folks have lives, and we got to get back to work, and we got to make this stuff work. And the sooner we get out of here, the sooner I'm going to type this up, give it to the city manager and mayor, and make sure they know this is what the group's asking for. This is what groups have suggested. And this is the overall temperature right now, because they're asking, they want to know. Yes, sir.
Something that I wanted to offer in relation to what you said from Brooke Brothers is, for anybody, we have a fairly big social media presence, DRA does. If anybody wants to send me information on, if you're open, your hours, if they've changed, if you have specials, if you have discounts, whatever, we'll post it twice a day on all our social media. I think what's going to, not necessarily what's going to save us, what's going to help is what's in this room is community. I mean, a lot of us know each other, a lot of us support each other and help each other out during other stuff. This is pretty bad, what's coming. If we don't help each other with any way we can, anything that we can do. I don't have a lot of resources, but we have some social media presence. So send me stuff, text me, message me, email me, whatever. You don't have my info, ask on the way out. We'll post it a couple of times a day. Here's who's open, here's who's got discounts on gift cards, takeout, and we'll encourage people, hey, please tip, you know, as much as you can for takeout and just try to help everybody around here because it's something. You know, whatever we can do, every little thing helps.
Thank you, Coach. Sean?
I guess for almost all of us, the number one cost is labor, and that'll be the biggest hurdle if there's little to no income coming in. And so the fastest we could get the answer for what the right thing to do is to let our employees go so they get in line first to get benefits that may be expanded beyond $350. Like $350, nobody's living on $350. I mean, people are living on $350 and they're eating at Maggie's place. But we're, if it's right to stay open because you can and you can service people who won't have food, then great. And if it's right to let people go so they can get in line first, that's great. Will those offices be open? Because when there are thousands of people out of work, are we all gonna get into groups of 49 and wait in line at our certain hour? Can we do these things online? Because I don't know, I think unemployment is usually in person. So.
Time to change.
You can do it online.
You do it online?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And sadly, a lot of government resources have moved to 100% online before 100% of our citizens have internet access at home. But I will say, I saw today Spectrum and last week AT&T both have rolled out some support for households that have students, knowing that kids are doing school 100% online right now. So just something else to know, like outside of small business, and it's your families, right, your employees, their children, like how do you keep education going? There are other stressors in that formula. I do believe all the resources we're talking about are now 100% online, and it's a matter of having access. Did you finish your thought, though?
Well, and are they currently ramping up for this giant wave of demand for their services? Are they going to work while they take their temperature? You know, are they hiring currently? And then the other thing, as we attempt to pay everyone, starting with our employees and then whoever else demands it first, will there be a moratorium on like bank fees while we like, you know, are balancing cash the best that we can?
We got all this tracked, because I don't know what the bank is gonna do with their fees, put them on the board, please. But those are all great questions. Where are we all gonna pull in to help with this? Someone reminded me recently that as a nation, we bailed out the banks not that long in our history. And now our cultural soul is on the line. So let's see if there's gonna be a pay it forward here. Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Tim Lemuel. I own Ruby Deluxe in Wicked, which is my writer. And we're on our last dying breath right now. And it's been hard for me to talk about it. Just because we rely on, you know, entertainment, and it's not responsible for us to be open and having people in the building for entertainment purposes. And that's all we have. So shortly we'll be announcing that we'll be shutting down. And without a rent moratorium or abatement, there's no solution whatsoever for a person like me. I have a landlord that I'll be breaking my lease terms pretty soon after April. And at that point, if they choose to push me out, they can, and I can't do anything about it. Insurance doesn't cover it. This isn't terrorism or an act of God. This isn't something that's on my insurance. I've checked everything. The city could waive liquor licenses. The city could waive food and beverage taxes. The city could waive a bunch of things, and maybe put me in a position where, should I get enough Venmo money or GoFundMe money, I might be able to scrape myself out of it. But once we shut the door, I can't imagine a way to open the door again.
All I say is thanks for sharing. That's honest. This is where it hurts. What's our neighbors?
What's your business?
I own music venues and bars for the queer community.
I can hear you.
I own music venues and bars for the queer community.
Some advice that I can give you is, people like us, network. You never know who has that extra cash that wants to invest money. That's really your business. And the biggest thing is don't be shy. Be out loud. Be like, hey, social media, Facebook, whatever you want to do. Find, talk to some of us, you know, we might have someone who's obsessed with music or whatever, and then they can give you that extra cash and work out something. Don't let it die. Don't let your business die out of cash, because believe it or not, cash is one of the easiest things you could find. It's just how much you want to give your soul away. But I said, don't let it die. Talk to some of us. We will, you know, in our industry, we know a lot of people that like to invest money. So that's an advice. Other thing, guys, that I do with my restaurant, you know, we are mentors at the end of the day, and I've been telling all my employees, guys, don't spend your money, keep it, don't go crazy. Don't, you know, if we close, don't go wild and start getting drunk or buying all these drugs and getting your house. That's number one. Number two, if your landlord it's threatening you to kick you out, or if you're not paying rent because you don't have the money, I have really good lawyers on my side that I will lawyer up to make sure my employees are covered. I will fight for them, and I think we just need to remind to our employees that if you have a landlord that doesn't want to like work with you, I will go personally myself and like fight for them. And I think all of us can do that since we're gonna have the time off if we close. You know, might as well just do it. But I'm saying they need to know that, you know, chefs, restaurateurs, we make shit happen. I will not let my employees just go down on flames because they can't pay rent. So let's mentor our employees.
All right, we asked for inspiration. That's inspiration. And that's some good points. There is cash. We know that. We knew that as an economy, the businesses are sitting on cash. Now, what's the bridge between where the cash sits and where your financial pages are today? I don't know. But I will say, and again, inspired by the conversations this weekend, the employers, the large employers in downtown and around Raleigh, their employees live for this cultural soul. This cultural soul helps them folks to get to the weekends, to look forward to socializing on Wednesday nights. I don't know what the larger employers in the area who can manage this, who can manage remote employees, who can manage the technology, who can be a little more agile in this environment. You know, do they have your Venmos? Do they have, this is how you make sure that the cultural soul stays intact so your employees don't leave. Like, Raleigh, that's, you know, a hard time. My best bars closed, my best restaurants closed. Let's see, you know, is anybody else bouncing back? What's Nashville looking like right now? What's Austin looking like right now? I don't know. I mean, this virus is everywhere, but employers do not want to lose their workforce, and the quality of life here was a big draw for why folks chose to live here and land here, because the talent here, we talked about, was creative, strong, resilient, smart. So we need to figure out, how do we get the attention of folks who seems like their quality of life is so good because you're making sure their quality of life is good. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm trying to also stimulate inspiration on that.
A couple solutions. One is asking, can the city help address with ABC to help extend the permit deadline past 4/15? That's one. The next one.
Is that an ABC permit?
Mm-hmm.
Past 4/15. Oh,
the renewal.
Okay, I thought 4/15 today. I got you. Thank you. I so don't own a bar.
The other thing is, there's a lot of things that the city can't force a bank or landlord to do, but the mayor can put them on notice that at some time in the future, these banks, landlords, etc., will need the city, and the city will remember that.
Okay.
One other suggestion is Ruby Deluxe. It sounds like you're having a virtual concert that will never exist because everyone's willing to buy a ticket.
That is a good idea.
There you go.
So, sounds like you've got a concert that'll never exist to plan today.
Okay.
Can the City Department of Revenue help eliminate late fees and penalties for late filing?
I don't know what that means. Does somebody else know what that means?
Tax filings.
It's gotta
With the
be.
city?
Assistance Filing Form 7004, it's gotta be. Yeah.
Is it county or city? Both.
I'll give you all these.
It's county. Okay.
Can the large employers communicate? Can we work to connect with all the large employers downtown, to connect with them, to make them aware of all the food deliveries that are happening that can occur to their employees or people that are living and working from home?
Your thought?
Yeah, with Downtown Raleigh Alliance, we'd be happy to help with that as best we can. A number of the office tenants are currently in telework now, but there are still thousands of residents down here. So we'd be happy to help with that communication. We have that database.
And I think another avenue for that is gonna be all the healthcare workers who are gonna be doing, you know, extraordinary work, long hours, you know, and if we can connect to sort of making it a win-win, help the heroes who are working on the front lines, and by purchasing food or services from our local business, that's a win-win. And there's probably a way we can connect those two opportunities.
So, are you saying if a restaurant, for example, hosted buy a meal for someone?
Exactly. And maybe like our alliances could, you know, put those deals together, or with the partnership with the city who's, you know, connecting with the healthcare providers, so that, you know, we don't want to flood them with deliveries. We want to make that seamless and smart. But there's going to be a lot of healthcare workers who are doing, you know, crazy long hours.
Yeah.
And if individuals can contribute and basically buy a lunch, buy a meal, a hot meal for someone who's been working all day, you know, can go a long way.
Yeah.
And that's a win-win, you know. And there's probably other, you know, there's gift certificates to retail stores, to service stores. You know, that might be a
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for being with us. I know we're wrapping up on our time. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Andrea Victoria. I'm a founding member and representative of a service industry advocacy group here in Raleigh, and I work front of house in Fiction Kitchen and Person Street Bar. My question is kind of twofold. The first is that, or the first statement is that I appreciate that there's a link here, and that I haven't checked it out, but I'm hoping that any kind of information coming from the city or the government at all will be streamlined and formatted in such a way that is accessible to everyone who's accessing it, which means that not only are there just like information, not only is there information about like which tax cuts are happening and what rollbacks are occurring and which forms need to be filled out, but like that individual workers from these places are able to look at this and understand what that means for them in their daily lives. I would like to see the resource pages that are being put together be accessible to the owners, but also to the folks who are working typically for minimum wage or somewhere around there, in a language that makes sense to them. In addition, I think that a lot of us have a lot of confusion about which departments are handling what. If there's a way to map that out visually, perhaps, because that may be, again, more accessible, or a list that just says, like, the state does this, the federal agencies do this is what city council does, this is what this particular department does, this is what the mayor's office is doing, and then maybe a way to link those things together so that we can see what the train of actions need to be. That would be very helpful.
I love a good flow chart.
Yeah, right? Because then you can just go around it. And if that doesn't work, you can kind of flow the other way. Echoing some of my colleagues here, I think that a lot of us have huge concerns for the businesses themselves, but also for our staff, especially the tipped employees whose wages may or may not ever be compensated fully enough. If we're expecting a downtown to be revitalized in the best way at our capacity, we want to say things like, go out, spend money, but also don't go out, spend money because you could get sick, which is a real problem that I think that's the reason that we're all in this room. How do you say, don't tell your staff not to spend money, save your money, but also please come spend money? I know that as a bartender, I go to work every day going, I'm putting people at risk, I'm potentially making people sick, I'm potentially making myself sick. Until someone tells me not to go to work, I'm gonna keep going to work, or unless I show symptoms. And that is really, really unsafe. That's an unsafe decision that I'm making, but I don't want to be foreclosed on. So it's kind of like, I think that it is wonderful that we are having discussions about how we would all like to solve this problem, but some level of leadership, either from this department or from another agency, I think is very helpful. Like, someone needs to go, hey, you have to be closed, and here's the 5 different ways that we're gonna start immediately to help make sure that your expenses are mitigated, not just for your business, but for your staff. Because when those doors shut, especially for marginalized groups, the staff they're just gonna move out of town if they can afford to do that. And then that sense of what we're trying to create downtown is gonna be dissipated.
Next question. They understand that there's unemployment determined on a federal level than a state level. Is there anything in place for independent contractors who are going to lose funds as a result of the bars?
Has anybody heard anything?
Like DJs and things like that. I know that's a discussion that's going on right now. so much of our economy has moved to independent contractors like Lyft and Uber and all that delivery services that, you know, you would think that the easiest thing, most logical thing would be to all of a sudden sign up with DoorDash or somebody, but what are their policies for keeping our food safe and sanitary, and who's getting in whose car, and are they sick? I mean, no, I would think that if we're here and we don't know what the future looks like, then independent contractors probably even further outside the loop.
If the city of Raleigh and Wake County, are they able to go and represent at the state level for sales tax abatement or postponement right now, as Wake County and the city of Raleigh is a large player?
We absolutely can lead our voice into recommendations for what we'd like to see our elected leadership do. Jeff, you want to turn on that?
Yeah, I think it's a yin-yang. Like, every one of us in this room can talk to our elected officials at the state and the federal level and funnel that information up, and then also be, doing what we're doing today, empowering the city, whose elected officials have one of the strongest relationships with those elected officials at the higher level, to make it very clear what this community needs. Most of these issues, the unemployment benefits and the sales tax issues, are at the state and the federal level. And so by making it very clear, and one of the texts I got was, could we get notes for this, or could we publish notes that just make it clear, like, these are all the questions that people are asking and we're working on.
Yes, yes. That's why Nia is trying to, but you have them too, right? So it was so good that Jennifer raised her hand and say she'll live stream because she gets to track the questions as well. And associations like your own, any group that's a advocacy association or advocacy group, you've got the best voice. You've got the stories, you've got the balance sheets, you've got the voting power. You absolutely need to be heard by your elected leaders right now. They all have email addresses. For the most part, they've got staff looking at those. Tell them your heartburn, tell them your heartache. We would reiterate it, absolutely. But for us, it's like, oh, there's Raleigh again, one of the largest economies in the state. Oops, they stubbed their toe. We need to really let folks know from a frontline, Main Street perspective, this is what's happening to the cultural soul of our city. One of the largest economies in our state and our nation right now, and this is what's happening here. So that could be a comparison for where things are worse. So I just implore you, please be thoughtful about, reach out, tell your story. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Like, just do it. Like, reach out to your elected leaders and say, this is what's happening on my street today. Here's what's happening in my club today. Here's my restaurant. Here's my numbers last Wednesday. Here's my numbers today. And give them talking points. What you share with them helps them to be smarter and more informed, and they'll know what to ask for. So always send a communication with a call to action. What I need from you, Mr. or Mr. Representative, is, and tell them what you need so they'll know how to ask for it.
I know we're wrapping up, and I just want to reiterate, please send your staff, your tipped employees, anyone who really truly may need a meal, to a place at the table. I think there's this myth that a place at the table is a place that is just for people who live outside, and that is not true at all. We see all across the board, all different kinds of people every single day. And so, I really encourage you, give them that as an option. There will be no questions asked. Everyone will get a meal. We'll be doing takeout only, but we will keep our hours. We will go down fighting until we're told not to serve. But please send your staff there. They can pop by real quick. They can get a latte. They can get a sandwich, and take it quickly to go from the curb. So, use that as an option. It is not just for people on the streets. It's for everyone who just needs a meal, no question asked.
Thank you, Maggie. When's the next meeting with actually people that can make a difference? Meaning, like, councilmen, whatever political state, having a conversation between us, it's nice, but if we cannot make a real change, we're just bullshitting each other. So tomorrow there's a 1 p.m. meeting, right?
Yes, the council meeting has not been canceled. There is a council meeting tomorrow. Staff has been asked to live stream or work from our offices or from our remote location to make more room for about this many people. I suspect we're going to see about this much, maybe a few more here or something like that. But yes, there is a meeting tomorrow. At this point, the council meeting had not been canceled, and it is 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Is it open to anyone?
It is an open meeting, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
If it is canceled, can we do a virtual meeting? Is there an ability to do a virtual meeting with the council? I mean, I don't think we should be canceling council meetings, we can't meet face to face. Is there a way to have a portal for us to discuss this, teleconference in with phone lines and phone calls? Because, they're scared, we're here right now.
Great question.
It's live stream, and you can add comments.
Some of the conference rooms here in this building.
Okay.
With it live streamed in those rooms. I don't know how you can interact with it, but those rooms will be set up so that they'll, stagger the number of people and all the different locations.
I know we are a pretty technological advanced society here. We should be able to communicate from those rooms if possible.
Yeah.
Please.
Let's figure it out. So this is Sharon from our communications department. She is our communications partner at our Office of Economic Development and Innovation. Talk about that flow chart. We have our communications person in-house, Amanda. She's our lead with the city's communications department. We have a lead for COVID-19 response, Kiera, she's not with us, but our economic development lead is Sharon. So your question's been heard. We've got it. Let's see how to be interactive tomorrow if we can't be in person.
I think Zoom could handle up to like 900 people.
Okay.
So, but somebody's gonna have to, spearhead that.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna have to be, in charge of the switchboard, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, others. I'm happy to reconvene this meeting, this conversation. We don't like to meet for the sake of meeting. I'm serious about we are a data-informed organization. We will take every single one of these questions. We will capture those and give as much of a response as we know right now. The ones we have no response for, or that the mayor or elected officials need to chime in on, that's gonna go to them today. This whole write-up will get to the city manager and the mayor today. Our commitment right now at the city is we're not gonna close. Right? We're the city, we're the backbone of infrastructure, of commerce, the way we move around. It's not gonna help for us to close. We're working differently. And we are an employer. So we're an employer of more than 4,000 employees. So we also have to be mindful of keeping our employees safe, on track, responsive, engaged, but you're thinking about your folks as well. So we're both an employer and a local government, working with the county and the state. So we have a lot of moving parts as well. But as of at no point, the commitment is we're not gonna close the city, but we gotta work through these things with you. And advocacy groups that can help coordinate voices, like Jeff and Bill do. Bill and his team are great about making sure the downtown community has a voice, has a face, has a story. We know what's happening in downtown. Jeff is the same with Hillsborough Street. We have other alliances. So where other advocacy groups do that work, we need to hear from you as well.
I just want to share an observation that I hope is received in the positive way that I mean it. I moved here from another city that was going bankrupt, that was poorly managed, that could hardly, literally, sometimes you would go home having put your trash out and they wouldn't have picked it up and you had to bring it back in. This city is extremely well managed, extremely professional, extremely focused on customer service, and we're gonna benefit from that. We're gonna benefit that in ways that we may not ever see, but 6 months from now, we will look back and realize, that they put on this meeting today, that was inspired overnight, that had telecom, and let people link in. And when we look about, finding those solutions and partner, I think we're gonna find that there's new opportunities and new businesses and new solutions, that are gonna, create opportunities for us. And, I think we should just be really confident in the city's ability to help us get through this. And, there's gonna be a committee, a council meeting tomorrow. I really don't suggest like flooding them. They're gonna have, this is like a baseball game that's gonna go into extreme amounts of extra innings, right? Let's focus on the first inning, the second inning and the third inning, because there's gonna be about 60. I won't get through it. That's just mine.
You can also know in the council meeting tomorrow, if you want to email your council member right now, like today, here's what's on my mind. I need you to cover it to the meeting tomorrow. Please address this and let the council members know what resources how can council members host a conversation with the landlords? Ask them. Is that an option? If so, what do you need? What do you need from us to?
You can email all of them at once through one email address if you're not aware.
Do you know that email address?
It's in my computer.
Is it
I'm
Raleigh?
sure someone else in the room does.
Is it Raleigh City Council at raleighnc.gov?
I
Or
believe
counselors,
that is.
if you go to the Raleigh City Council website, click on counselors and it just says email all and it populates for you.
Makes it super easy.
So again, it's kind of real-time life we live in. Latest, 17 minutes ago, North Carolina not closing bars, restaurants for now. So if that's coming out of the governor's office, thank you, Crash, then that's what the county's not gonna do and the city's not gonna, we're gonna follow that lead. That was 17 minutes ago, that could change in 17 more minutes, but for now, but folks need to be thoughtful about, do you create social gathering places? Do you put limits on yourself of how many folks you can host? Do you move to, half capacity? Do you start staggering reservations? Do you require reservations so you can stagger? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know, but try some of that out and then share it with each other. Hey, the other night, this is what we did, and this was the response, and here we are. See you, anywhere else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Chris Markey from
Hey, Chris.
Theater and Ultimate Entertainment. Unfortunately for us, we're probably looking at June before we can even open the doors again. Most of our bands have canceled. We were proactive and decided to cancel last weekend shows. I have 30 employees that are out of work. A lot of the contract employees that we were talking about a few minutes ago. We also have another company, Ultimate Entertainment, where we do production for a bunch of events around town for colleges, for private bars and stuff like that. A lot of those events have canceled. A lot of the city events that we're working on have canceled. I've put in a lot of work to booking them. We've put in a lot of work to producing them. A lot of those employees, I'm telling, oh, sorry, the gig's gone, might be something to talk about repurposing the money that we were going to spend on these events and maybe help out those contractors that were going to work on those events. But as far as my biggest concern being here today is the employees, the tipped employees as well. Coming up with at least a plan so I can give them a plan. I mean, I know most of these people here personally, and I know a lot of them have stayed up at night. I haven't slept probably in 4 days fully for more than an hour or 2 hours. It's stressful. I mean, I'll get by, but I mean, I have a lot of friends that it's gonna be tough.
Thanks for the suggestion about repurposing. We should ask ourselves where those budgets that were planned for events, festival gatherings, what are we doing?
There's a lot of grant money out there that I feel like, I'm not 100% sure that's utilized the best way. I don't know of a nice way to say it, but I mean, there's $5,000 to spray paint a pizza shop probably is not the best way to use some money right now.
No, gotcha. So reprioritizing the discretionary grant funds that we do have control over. Yeah. We are talking about that, but I'm glad you said it. Because we do have some discretionary grant funds that, this might not be the climate that folks are gonna be asking for a building upfit grant, or it's gonna be the exact time that somebody needs that. But is it better to use those for rent forgiveness or rent matching grants? We are exploring all those options. But as you think through other ways, if you've heard of programs, like, hey, can we tweak this? Send it to us. We're not gonna think of everything. We are gonna think of everything, absolutely, this whole group. But our office, don't leave it just to us to do that. Others? All right.
Speaking for the alliances, Veronica, if we can really quick, just DRA, Hillsborough Street, I know Midtown, a lot of us have very powerful websites, and we're putting together a page with everyone that does have any type of online site, gift cards that they're selling, or any type of events happening. And so whether you're a member of our alliances or not, we're willing to create that and share that information and push it out to the public. So please don't hesitate to email us, email Veronica with your information of your website, any gift card links that you have, anything that we can do to push out to the public via weekly email newsletters and social media of ways that they can still support you virtually.
Thank you, Jennifer. In fact, if you send it to us, we have a listserv of the alliances. Send us what you want, we'll kick it out to them. If it gets to them, they'll kick it to us. No wrong door is our goal here. No wrong door. Whatever door you walk through, ideally, there's a welcoming, kind, warm person on the other side, ready to support, help, lift up, make clarity in a very, very gray and cloudy time. So let's just figure out this inning by inning that Jeff invited us to participate in. With that, I'm going to ask any last comments, questions, and please put them on your stickies. Anything you want us to remember taking forward, you don't want us to forget, put them on those boards. We'll wrap this meeting up, and then we'll move straight to getting this conversation to City Manager and Mayor, and tomorrow's the council meeting. Great, thanks folks, thank you.